And they are back. The
Here we
dynamic
are.
duo. We are in the dirty pocket. Welcome in to all those that have loyally stayed by us through what's been a crazy couple of months, man. It kind of started in July, COVID and hurricanes and new jobs during the day. And you've got another hurricane coming. But welcome in. I'm with my much better partner and half of the show, the scout, Daniel Kelly. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Hey, no, you're pretty good yourself. Now your team on the other hand, your team. Let's hear it for the Los Angeles Rams.
Listen, I'm going to keep rolling out the world champion Los Angeles Rams because they only can say that for another 2 months tops.
Hey, but here's the thing, Stacy. With all due respect and credit, at least you can say it. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there I've never been able to say it once. You know, I mean, I see. I can take listening to you talk trash because you just won. What I can handle is all the people back in Minnesota, including family, who wants to give me all this feedback about the Washington game when they've never won anything since 1960. I mean, that's, come on, man. That's just, but yeah. Hey.
So true. So true. Like I mean, that whole visual this weekend of Kirk Cousins on the plane dancing around with his chains on, shirtless. Now Adam Schefter's doing. I'm like, what are these guys doing, man?
Here's a prediction right off the bat of the dirty pocket, coming off hot off the edge.
Ooh, off the edge.
Yeah, I'm blocked clean. Here I come. You want a little prediction?
Of course.
That's going to come back to haunt the quarterback that's won one playoff game in his career. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be dancing around. I mean, he's got about $250 million that he's stolen from the NFL in his bank account. But I mean, it's no reason to dance quite yet because we all know how the story's going to end in Minnesota.
Oh man, it's so funny. He was on Manning Cast last night. I was watching in the background, and I kept waiting for them to say, "So, how does it feel to have absolutely ripped off the league like you have?"
We're going to get into some quarterbacks that are ripping off the league this year.
We're going to do it.
Hold on.
I was about to launch into it. Tradition.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Ready?
Here we go.
Ready?
I'm ready. Oh, bang.
Bang.
But
this is
a
different one tonight. This
Black
show's
cherry vanilla?
Bang. Yeah, this show's going to go off with a bang. So I've never had this one before. Let's see.
Okay, here we go.
This is a perfect bedtime treat, by the way, for those of you watching the East Coast.
Got a bang energy drink, sure. Oh my. Oh,
that's pretty good.
I think the scout approves. Approves.
It's not like that Doritos drink I had that one time. Remember that?
Oh my God, flaming farts Mountain Dew or something, whatever that stuff was. That was like, God.
Yeah, it was like Doritos Nitro or something. It was crazy.
So
what do you have there? What do you have?
I got a little sugar-free Stevia, cola flavor. I'm trying to get those 6-pack abs back. Probably losing that battle a little bit, but
Hey, you ready for the endorsement? You ready for
of course. Give us the song so we can talk quarterbacks.
Arsenio Hall. Hold on. For those of us old enough to remember Arsenio.
I was going to say, does anyone remember Arsenio?
Remember the dog pound?
Oh, yeah.
Listen. There's nothing like drinking a bang when the quarterbacks you've signed, traded for, and drafted in the first round have been anything but a bang. Grab for a bang now. Available in local grocery freezers and near you.
There you go, Bang. Come on. I see you guys all over social media with these incredibly beautiful women dancing around drinking bangs. What's wrong with us? Mean, look at the scout just came up with a little song there.
Hey. This message furnished by the National Football League. I mean, we can do this. We can do this thing. Listen. There's nothing better than a bunch of middle-aged guys dance around. Forget all the rest of the stuff you're just talking about.
Oh yeah.
If we could do like a little jig or something, and it's I mean, we've all seen me rap. Don't get me started on my bang.
Yeah, it seems as though you've kind of given that up on the TikTok staged lately. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen them, but
we don't know what's going to happen. That's the most unpredictable thing about this show is you never know what's going to happen. Just like you said, the last couple of months, heck, the last couple of years have been this way. Been completely unpredictable, not only in the NFL, but life. All this crazy stuff keeps happening. I mean, it's just like, it's just wow. I mean, and some lucky person won the $2 billion Powerball I saw today too out in California, which means they might be the next owner of the Washington Commanders. Okay, get going. Let's go.
No, did you see that Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z were meeting today, as reported on Twitter, which is always highly accurate?
Absolutely. What stuff
they're meeting to talk about buying the team. So there you go. There you go, man. You might be a Jeff Bezos guy. Yeah, pretty soon you'll be sending in your resume to him.
You never know. You never know what can happen.
Okay. Well, let's dive in. It has been a couple of weeks. It's time to have some fun. I do notice that you dressed in Jets gear. I'm so impressed with that team. I called it actually that they would have a much better season than I thought. And as a writer for SI, as you are, it is fun to see you supporting that squad. Love, my God, Sauce Gardner.
Oh yeah,
come on now.
I wrote back in May he was going to be the number one corner in the NFL. I mean, the thing about the game film is the great ones always jump out in the game film. When I went back and watched him last year coming out of the University of Cincinnati, Cincinnati had an aggressive defense to begin with. But nobody was more aggressive on that defense than Sauce Gardner, who didn't allow a touchdown during his college career, okay? We're not talking about a season. We're talking about a career at Cincinnati. But it was just it's the things that you love as an evaluator when you turn them on and you watch the game film. Just that swag and that aura of aggressiveness and the long, big arms and the big reach and the athleticism and the flexible hips and the burst of speed. I mean, sometimes when someone comes to mind, I put an NFL comparable on my scouting reports, and I compared him to Champ Bailey, who I named my firstborn daughter after, Bailey Hope, back in 1999, and that's who he reminded me of. I mean, this guy is the next Champ Bailey. He's the next Deion Sanders of our generation. He's the next guy that's going to be this elite shutdown corner. He's done very, very well. And, of course, on the other side of the ball, as we talked about off air for a moment, we have to give it up to Breece Hall, the superstar running back from Iowa State, who I loved and gave a first-round grade to and compared to Adrian Peterson. Little did I know that he was going to also follow Peterson's footsteps with the knee injuries. And, of course, you got Garrett Wilson, too, the superstar receiver out of the Ohio State. That is, my wide receiver one in the 2022 NFL draft, who is ripping it up as well with the catches and the yards after the catches this last Sunday against Buffalo. I have this stuff all stored up here. Out of Zach Wilson's 18 completions, 8 of them went to Wilson. That's Garrett. And Zach should thank his lucky stars I wrote that he has a receiver like that to throw the ball to. But yeah, the Jets are off to a good start. They're inconsistent. There's some, 1 week it's really bad, the next week it's better. There's some of that going on, but they've definitely been a big surprise so far this season, as you alluded to, Stacy.
Oh yeah, imagine. I mean, we're going to jump into quarterbacks here now, but imagine when this New York Jets team gets that offensive line together. How's another one more solid draft? I mean, you've got the pieces. Hall comes back, Jameson, Elijah Moore, who's a little disgruntled right now, Carter. I mean, you've got the pieces in place.
Wait. There's an article that came out today talking about what if the Jets sign Lamar Jackson this offseason?
I wonder who wrote that.
Jeez, I don't know.
Where would someone find that article about the Jets signing Lamar Jackson?
On Jets Country, SI. It's the lead story out there right now. Just type in Daniel Kelly, Zach Wilson, or go on my Sports Illustrated page for the Jets. It's the first story on there underneath my name. But you say they have all the pieces, not quite. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in just a minute.
We're going to get into quarterbacks, and I know how you love a good young guy from BYU. So let's jump into this week's meat of the discussion. We're going to talk quarterbacks as we often do in the Dirty Pocket. Isn't that appropriate? And Scout, this has been an unusual and somewhat interesting year at the quarterback position. And I know, look, we could say that every year, but we could talk about Tom Brady and what he's looked like. Aaron Rodgers, 3 picks against the Lions, 1 to a defensive lineman.
I said I would cut him 2 years ago. I was just a little ahead of my time. You know what I mean?
Little bit ahead. And, we could talk about Mahomes, Allen. We could talk about all of them. But let's talk about the big ticket quarterbacks. You have done, to your credit, a deep dive, fantastic analysis, as you often do, firstroundmock.com, people, with some of these players. But let's talk about these big ticket quarterbacks. Let's start first. You've broken them down. This is all the scout folks. You've broken them down by free agent or trade, first round picks, best of the other free agent signings, and then kind of summarize some of that. Give us a run through. When we look at the quarterbacks halfway through the season in 2022, we're seeing some really wild stuff. Free agent or trade guys. Let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this past offseason, I mean, really over the last couple of years, but this past offseason, as far as free agents and trades, we had these big ticket quarterbacks that we saw come off the free agency board, and there was some major trades, starting with Carson Wentz, who's gone from Philadelphia, the Indianapolis, now the Washington, right? And of course, Washington did everything in their power to try to get Taylor Heineke off the field, the guy that has the biggest heart and tries the hardest of any player that's played in that organization since John Riggins, in my mind. But they tried to replace him and tried to do everything they could. So now that, last year it was Ryan Fitzpatrick. This year it's Carson Wentz, okay? So Carson Wentz comes in. Now, he has a $28 million cap hit this year, okay, Stacey, and our listeners, okay? $28 million. And this is a guy that's won 2 games and lost 4 as the starter. He's throwing 10 touchdowns, 6 picks, kind of like, whatever. But here's the thing, okay? Now, we're going to talk about QBR tonight. That's going to be a buzz phrase we're going to be throwing around the show called quarterback rating. It's a complex formula developed by, it's a proprietary complex formula developed by ESPN that kind of summarizes, they plug in all the numbers and they say, okay, oh, look at that, MTO. Well, I tell you, he must have his alarm set on his phone or something.
Absolutely fantastic.
Hey,
good to see you, MTO.
Welcome back. Good to see you. Good to see you, MTO.
Jets, baby.
Hey,
Jets,
there we go. Right there. But here's the thing. We're talking quarterbacks tonight, MTO, and to our listeners. And Carson Wentz is a QBR of like 33.0. Okay, I mean, the really good quarterbacks are in the 70 to 80 range, okay? The top guys, the Mahomes, Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, those type of people, okay? They're up in the 70, 80 range, okay? Now, Wentz says 33.0. Now, he was a big ticket item. Then of course, we move on really quickly so we don't, get too bogged down by any one player. We talk about Russell Wilson, the blockbuster trade from Seattle to Denver, right? We saw this offseason. A $17 million cap hit in 2022. Of course, he's got the big contract, but we're just talking about cap hit this year. This guy has won 3 games, lost 4, pitched 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, QBR 36.0.
Oof.
Okay, that could go down as one of the biggest busts in NFL history, folks. Okay,
and Russ is like 33 years old, right?
Yeah,
32, 33.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, this is what blows my mind. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, you might want to pump up the volume, turn it up a little bit. Okay, this is a thing that blows my mind about your organization. If you look back at Russell Wilson over the last 10 years, incrementally, like stair steps, he's been going downhill. Okay, as far as like the Seahawks, as far as getting to divisional, they won that big Super Bowl. Then every year from there, it's gone kind of downhill. Okay, there was a decline in pro scouting back when I was with the Jets. We used to put like an arrow going up for a player on the rise, an arrow going down for a guy declining, and an arrow going sideways for guys that are just kind of staying status quo. Okay, Russell Wilson was clearly had a grade with an arrow going down. Denver trades all these players, all these draft picks for a quarterback with a 36.0 QBR. I mean, that's,
it's mind-boggling. I mean, suddenly Pete Carroll, the Seahawks, and all that, they all look absolutely brilliant.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And they are okay.
Yeah.
And then we talk about Baker Mayfield, of course. That whole thing in Cleveland melted down. They traded for Deshaun Watson. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, said he wanted to get an adult in the room. They traded Baker off to the Carolina Panthers. Of course, that's been a circus out there. But here's the thing with the Baker Mayfield. Okay, now he only counts 4.8 million against the cap. But he has won 1 game, lost 5, pitched 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and has a QBR of 16.9. That's half of the other 2 guys we were exasperated by just a moment ago. Okay.
It's just strange for the number 1 pick in the draft just a few years ago. And then he takes the Browns to the playoffs, and then it's like off a cliff. I mean, just off a cliff.
Off a cliff. It is. It really is a fast decline there. Okay. And then we switch over to Mitch Trubisky. Okay. Supposedly, the way we were sold this story was that, he was in Chicago. We all developed amnesia. We didn't remember that. He went to Buffalo. He backed up Josh Allen just because he sat on the bench in Buffalo. We were supposed to believe that he was like revamped into some kind of he put a cape on or something and came out of Buffalo and went to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mitch Trubisky, okay, so he's 10.6 million hit against the cap this year, 2 wins, 3 losses, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a partridge in a pear tree, okay? And he's got a QBR of 51.6. Okay, so that's the best QBR of that group, those 4 guys. But he's nothing to write home about either. Obviously, he's been benched in the favor of a rookie out there, Kenny Pickett, who we'll get into in a moment. Now, Stacy, we look at the draft picks. This is interesting, okay? Everybody wants to, we're going to tank for this guy. We're going to tank for that guy. We're going to tank for, we got to get our hands. We got to trade up. Let's, what do we have? What do we have in the house we can trade with all our draft picks to get, that is the mentality to go get these quarterbacks, okay? Of course, the big 3 ticket items 2 years ago, right? And thank you, MTO. I would love to have an opportunity in Indianapolis. And thank you for what you said there. I've been reaching out and tweeting Mr. Irsay over the last couple of days directly, and I would love to have that opportunity. No question about it. I went there for the combine for a few years, stood in the Colts end zone. I would love to do all that out there. No question.
Jeff Saturday on line 1. Jeff Saturday on line 1 for the scout.
Hey, I'm there. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this thing. Okay. It's in a shambles right now, but it can be fixed, and it can be fixed quickly. But let's go back to these first round picks, and I appreciate MTO. The first round picks, okay, the big 3 2 years ago, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Trevor Lawrence, right? The big 3 that everybody thought were the big 3, okay? Yeah. Zach Wilson's been, nothing but an inconsistent game manager for the Jets. That's the piece of the puzzle I alluded to earlier that's holding them back. They've got to move on from him. They got to get, 2 years of injuries. And I mean, the guy's completed I think 56% of his passes over 2 years combined. He's 7.9 against the cap million. Now he's won 5 games and lost 1. That's the best of the group. Okay. But let's not kid ourselves. Okay. There's a lot to be going on there with the rest of the puzzle around him that's winning some of these games. And he's now here's the real telling sign. 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 6 games.
Oh, gee.
Okay. 48.0 QBR. Now we move on to Trey Lance. Of course, he's injured again. He was injured last year. These quarterbacks, there's a pattern with Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. They're developing. They're hurt. both years. Bill Parcells used to say 2 years in the NFL is a lifetime. We're just about, at the end of that 2 years. Okay. But $7.7 million for Trey Lance against the cap. He won 1, he lost 1, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 37.4 QBR. And MTO says Zach Wilson is similar to Jimmy Garoppolo, so much expected, so much more. It's one of those things. I mean, finding quarterbacks is not easy in this league, as we can all see. Okay. And then Trevor Lawrence, right? Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the generational guy who I put a 90% bust rate on. You in previous shows, Stacey, said he was the next Jeff George. Kudos to you. That was a big comp. That was right on target, bullseye. 8.3 million against the cap this year. Three wins, 6 losses, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So it's a little bit better, but at 50.9 QBR. Kenny Pickett, I mean, Kenny Pickett, I rated as a 5th-round draft pick for SI Lions. You can go check that out if you want to. I wrote about him back in November. Everybody fell in love with Kenny Pickett and his tiny hands. There he is. Okay. He's a $2.5 million cap hit, which isn't too bad in the NFL. Of course, most of us would really like to have $2.5 million a year. Yeah. Those of us working normal jobs. I mean, we make it sound like 2.5 is like, it's like Samantha and I, we didn't realize that today the Powerball had been won. So we bought a Powerball ticket, right? And it came out and it said the grand prize was 20 million. And we're like, I didn't know anybody won that thing. And we looked at each other like, only 20 million. That's going to be
I know. Hope we can make it.
It reminds me of people I used to work with this office. They're like, oh, we're not going to play that till it's actually big enough to play. Dude, you're making like minimum wage. What do you mean?
I'm totally in.
It's like 38 million. No, we're going to wait till it grows, right?
I did not MTO. I wish I had won it. You might be seeing the dirty pocket with the scout and some guy that looks like me laying down back there covered in champagne.
Yeah, the pocket be really dirty if you had $2 billion tonight.
Utterly dirty.
Yeah, it would be. But, Kenny Pickett, right? Kenny Pickett is one win, 4 losses, 2 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Here we go, folks. And a QBR of 36.7, really bad, right? Now get this, okay? Now, last offseason, we were all looking at all these big quarterbacks, right, Stacy? We're talking about all these quarterbacks trades and Russell Wilson and getting all fired up about all these guys and, these quarterbacks, and everybody's looking at Kenny Pickett except for us. And, everybody's, and there was a few guys who were just afterthoughts. I mean, they were just, you can bring him in. Maybe he can hold a clipboard. Maybe get us some Gatorade, that type of guy, right? Okay. Geno Smith. Now, you touched on it earlier, the brilliance of what Seattle's decision makers have done with this. Now, there's a little luck probably involved, right? It's always. Like Mike Ditka used to say, I'll take the luck over the skill any day of the week, okay? But Geno Smith, okay, $3.5 million against the cap this year. They thought Seattle, they were going to stick a fork in them before the season began. We remember that. He's got 6 wins and 3 losses, right?
Wow.
And he's got 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. For a QBR, ready? Drum roll. You can't hear it, but okay. Drum roll. 68.0 QBR. Okay. What does this mean? Okay. For those of us playing along at home, okay. I'm not a mathematician. I can't even hardly say the word, but I'm not a mathematician, right? Okay. But Geno Smith, check this out, has the best QBR of any player traded for, signed in free agency, or drafted in the first round in the last year or two.
That's incredible. That's an incredible stat.
Think about that. A guy that nobody really cared about. A guy that's played for the Jets, the Giants, the Chargers, and now Seattle.
Maybe I was wrong about that. Okay.
No, he went through the Buffalo airport. I think.
Oh, okay. Well, that counted.
Yeah. Right. But that's a journeyman, okay? Now, here's a guy I want to give you props, Stacy, because you mentioned this guy, and you said that you thought that he was going to be kind of underneath the radar, right?
Right.
And to your point, MTO, Daniel Jones, I picked him, actually. I got to go on record saying that I said Daniel Jones would come back player of the year on a YouTube video I did prior to the season starting. I thought Daniel Jones would do really well because of Brian Daboll, who I love, the head coach here. I thought he would do big things for him. But you're right. He's
coach
a big – absolutely. Yeah. He's done a great job. But you're right. Daniel Jones in our project. But check this out. This is a guy I wanted to touch on, Stacy, to your point. I want to give you kudos on this. Okay. Marcus Mariota. You said it. Right? We got to give props here to you. Because you said, this could be a guy that's going to fly under the radar, 4.25 million cap hit, four wins, 5 losses, but 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 59.7 QBR. Okay, that's pretty darn good too. And then of course, then we got Jacoby Brissett, who nobody really could care less about. Went
No,
to
but
Cleveland. He was an afterthought. Deshaun Watson was the big trade. Jacoby Brissett was, he was supposed to be, he was, it's just a guy that's going to be holding Deshaun Watson's clipboard, right? $4.6 million against the cap. He is a veteran. 3 wins, 5 losses. But 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's done a decent job. I think better than most people expected, holding down the fort until Deshaun gets back. 61.5 QBR, which means that he has the second highest QBR of any of these quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett. Nobody cared about him. And better than Carson Wentz, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Mitch Trubisky, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, and Kenny Pickett. Jacoby Brissett, better than all of them this season.
That absolutely incredible. And I mean, there's your 2 surprises, right? The Seahawks and the Browns.
Right.
I mean, there's 2 of the bit. Well, and look, I got to throw the Jets in there. The Jets have played good football. I know that Zach Wilson isn't the strongest, link in that team. It's definitely the defense, but God, he's got a hell of a, skill.
They've done a nice job. There's no question about that. Now, if they had some offensive tackles, they'd really be scary, like I've been writing about for a year now.
So I got a question for you before you press on because this is an awesome analysis. I'm giving you a choice. You're my GM. We need a quarterback. There's only 2 on the board. One is Geno Smith, and the other is Kyler Murray.
Geno Smith.
Who do you go with?
Geno Smith. I mean, if I had a game show buzzer, I would hit it. I mean, I'm not, as we know in previous shows, to sign Kyler Murray to that type of a contract, the guy who won,
disaster.
He had a losing record in Arizona when they signed him to that deal. It was like 21-23.
I don't even care who they bring in. They can bring in Sean Payton because Kingsbury ain't surviving this, but they can bring in Sean Payton, Frank. I don't care who it is. That kid's a disaster. He doesn't love football. And it's just, you're right, man. I mean, they are hamstrung to that guy. The poor Cardinals fans. I mean,
it's awful. And this is interesting because for years and decades, the Bidwells were known as a team that didn't want to spend money.
Yeah.
And all the fans griped about. Now they go spend the money. And this is what they're left with is their Kyler Murray is like cemented into that team for the next few years with that contract. Nobody's going to take that deal or take that away from them. Yeah. And it's a rough situation. To answer your question, just flipping the script here as we audible. We're doing a lot of audibling today. We're boom, boom, just like John Madden, boom. But which quarterback is more visible right now in their inevitable divorce? Tom Brady with Giselle or Aaron Rodgers with the Packers front office? No question. It's in my mind. It's Aaron Rodgers with the Packers front office. That is a mess out there now. Tom Brady is going to use this to his advantage to probably win another Super Bowl if we're not careful, because he gets in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to face him. That's for sure. It's the last guy in the league I'd want to face. But Rodgers, it's a miserable situation out there in Green Bay. And so that's my answer to that one. But yeah, to get back to what you said, Stacey, we're jumping all around here. But yeah, Geno Smith, I would take in a heartbeat. I mean, that's he's the best of the bunch so far. And
I love it. So okay. So as we always near the end on this show, it seems too quick here in the pocket. But as far as the draft picks, the 2 best in the past 2 years, give us your analysis. We've talked Geno Smith, and then we've got to talk about that guy that got the Dallas Cowboys to where they're at.
Right.
I'll leave that alone. That's a teaser. But these 2, the draft picks, looking at what's going on now with Trey Lance is on the bench. No one's surprised. I know he's hurt, but no one's surprised.
Right.
The other guys. Fields, Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett.
Well, the interesting thing about this is my QB1 in the 2021 NFL draft, it's all documented online, was Justin Fields. Okay. Yep. And, all of a sudden Fields is starting to get some love now on social media. He's run the ball like Bo Jackson did. Okay.
Imagine if he was in the Baltimore Ravens offense.
Imagine if he was with the Jets or the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers for sure. The Jets, maybe. Yeah. I'm not giving up on Zach Wilson yet. I might be the only one on this show, but
There's only two of us, so it'd have to be.
Well, I'm going to count MTO who's listening, and also
right,
a Jets fan. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
But yes, okay. So, but Fields, right? He's a guy, $4.2 million, rookie contract. This year against the cap. He's won 3, he's lost 6, but he's tossed 10 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He is absolutely turning the corner at this point. To me, he reminded me a lot of Randall Cunningham coming out of Ohio State. He's kind of proven to be that guy that's just a dual threat all the way around. And his QBR is 55.0. And then flipping the script really quick to Mac Jones, obviously having a very difficult season this year. His QBR is 32.1, so I'm not big on that. 3.5 million cap hit, 3 wins, 3 losses, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions this year. But there's a caveat with Mac Jones, because last year he was the offensive rookie of the year runner-up, and he took New England to the playoffs as a rookie, which is done more than any of the rest of these guys on the list.
Yeah.
So that works in his favor too. But that's those two guys are the cream of the crop, which ironically Fields and Jones for my QB1 and QB2 in the 2021 NFL draft. And Kenny Pickett, I put a 5th round grade on him. I didn't want anything to do with him. I had Trey Lance rated as an undraftable free agent. I had Zach Wilson as a 3rd rounder, and Trevor Lawrence I put a 90% bust rate on. When he came out with that big Sports Illustrated story before the draft, saying basically he could care less about winning anything.
Yeah, my draft board.
Yeah, bye.
Don't care what you look like. Don't care how strong your arm is. Goodbye.
No, absolutely. That was enough for me. So I kind of like took my comb and just kind of removed his hair from my draft board.
Fabio. So look at interesting point by MTO, and I think it's worth popping in right here in the pocket. You've got these guys in year 3. I thought Jalen Hurts was going to be an absolute career backup. I was like, whatever. I thought Tua could be about where he is right now, if I'm being honest about it. But they're in their 3rd year. So and I want you to tell us a little bit using Cooper Rush. Like, do we give up on quarterbacks too quickly?
Well, I'll as soon as you say that, I'll go back to what the famous Lee Steinberg, the super agent, personally told me when I was riding home from Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl to when I lived in Arizona. I walked in the airplane and I looked at my seat. Now I knew who Lee Steinberg was, right? This is like the guy they modeled Jerry Maguire after the movie and all, I knew who this was. This is a guy who always had his arms around the top draft picks every year when I was a kid. He was the best agent in the NFL. He hit some hard times. He was kind of rebounding and starting over, and he was, trying to get going again. He had wrote a book at that point. And all of a sudden I sat down my airplane seat and I looked over and there's Lee Steinberg. I'm like, hey, Michael Jordan said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So I turned to him and I said, Mr. Steinberg. And he said, yes. And I said, hi, I'm Daniel Kelly. I used to scout with the Jets. I was down here for the Senior Bowl, working with the Sporting News. He started talking to me and he was in the mood to talk. Okay. And it was really interesting because we got into this conversation about quarterbacks, which is his thing, to your point, Stacy. And he said to me, okay, and this is Lee Steinberg. This is the guy that's worked with all the best quarterbacks, over the last 3 decades, okay, for the most part. He said to me, quarterbacks are like a fine wine. They take time to develop. He said a lot of times these teams give up on guys really quick, and he used Rich Gannon at that point as an illustration to me in our conversation. Now, Rich Gannon, of course, came in as a 12th round draft pick, a wide receiver out of Delaware, drafted back when they had 12 rounds by Minnesota. He fooled around Minnesota for a few years. He bounced around. He went out to Washington, didn't work out there, went to Kansas City, didn't work out there. Eventually, he wound up with the Raiders when Mark Trestman was the offensive coordinator out there, and became the NFL MVP at 39 years old. But it took a number of years to get to that point. I think, yes, but there's a fine line between the two because, listen, no organization is going to wait 15 years for a guy to develop. That's just not the NFL we live in with these coaches, right? It's just, it's a win now league. And that's why we're seeing all these desperate moves made that we highlighted in the show today, made for trades, made for free agents, moving up in the draft, trading. The 49ers traded 3 number 1 picks, as we remember, for Trey Lance. All these teams are making desperate moves to try to get a quarterback because, as my NFL mentor taught me, a man with 4 rings, if you have a quarterback, you have a chance. That's the way the thought process in the NFL. So everyone's trying to go get these quarterbacks. But one thing that this study showed me, Stacey, more than anything, and to our listeners, was there are no quick fixes.
Yep, I totally agree. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to see the names that are dominating the top 10, top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL halfway through the season. Final shot across the bow from MTO. I think this is a great question to close the show on this week. And I encourage everybody to take a look at firstroundmock.com with the scout Daniel Kelly for all kinds of information. But MTO wants to know if CJ Stroud is a better quarterback prospect than Justin Fields at this point. What say you in just a couple of minutes, Scout Kelly?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, he is. What I've seen so far, okay, now I've done 2021 film work on CJ Stroud, okay, and I'm a big Fields guy. I tweeted a couple weeks ago, when they were down on Justin Fields, I said, let me be a GM of any team in the NFL and give me Justin Fields and we'll win the Super Bowl next year. Point blank, okay? So I'm a big Fields guy. But when I looked at Stroud, in 2021 game film, the guy was like a human jugs machine. He just sat back there, just whoop, whoop, just launching them, just big, strong arm kid, just launching them, looking off safeties with his eyes, something that most 10-year vets in the NFL, can or can't do. I mean, CJ Stroud, I wrote for firstroundmock.com, my draft website. I said is a generational talent. That's a big term thrown around in scouting circles. That is the first time in my life I've used that terminology as a generational talent.
Okay.
So CJ Stroud is I haven't done the 2022, game film work on him yet. I have been keeping up. On the, and you're right. Run to the podium, Houston. Davis Mills. Run to the podium is right. Okay. It's don't walk, run. Take the draft card, make a paper airplane and throw it at the commissioner. I mean, with the get that going. Okay. He is that good. CJ Stroud, from everything I've seen, and everything I've seen as far as the stats and all the information on Twitter confirms it. The guy looks just amazing.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. You got a little scouting report to finish up this week inside the Dirty Pocket from Scout Daniel Kelly, MTO. I'll throw out one more question as we do our closing remarks. You can answer. Do you trade Zach Wilson straight across for the number 1 pick and a chance at CJ Stroud? What say you, Jets fan, MTO? As for the Scout and I, another week in the books. We're trying to get back into regular cadence after life has thrown us some interesting curveballs from the West Coast to the East Coast. I know you're bracing for another hurricane there, Scout Kelly.
It's a tropical storm.
Okay.
We're this little 4-by-2 mile island in the middle of the ocean in Key West. It's like a little pinhead, right? And we're like a little bullseye, and all these storms go around us and stuff. It's just, it's like being a Dirty Pocket only on a bigger scale. You know what I mean?
Yep, I totally get it. Oh, and the MTO was sounded off. Yep, but I can't see Houston or Detroit doing it. Neither can I. Not for Zach Wilson. They'd have to package a whole bunch. The first thing they're going to say is throw Sauce Gardner in or Jameson. That's going to get ugly. Probably not possible. I am looking forward to spending some time with the scout on offensive linemen because a certain team currently, but not for much longer, the world champion Los Angeles Rams are in desperate need of offensive linemen and a running back. I need to go back and look at your scouting report on Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame, as I think he's going to be handed the ball here pretty soon, but there is no one blocking for him up front. So lots to talk about. Scout, any parting shots as we leave the pocket this week?
Well, you touched on it, and I think this is a good parting shot for our audience. Okay, is that the highest QBR of any quarterback out there now? Cooper Rush, right? Cooper Rush was a guy that was cut at the end of training camp. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means he cleared waivers. Every team in the league had a shot of signing him. Nobody did. He came back to Dallas with his tail between his legs, so to speak, right? We came back to Dallas, signed with them. He was going to back up Dak Prescott, right? Okay, get this, right? He's only making under $1 million, $977,000. He's the only quarterback out there making under seven figures, okay? 4 wins, 2 losses, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for a QBR of 61.2, okay? So he basically is – so think about this. When we went into the offseason, okay, did we have visions when we talked about going to get ourselves a quarterback? Did we have visions of Geno Smith, Jacoby Brissett, and Cooper Rush when we thought about going to sign a quarterback? Well, guess what? Those are the 3 guys with the 3 top QBRs out of any of them.
Absolutely wild. That is a perfect parting shot. Let's see if this holds true through to first of the year. Because I'll tell you what, if those guys are riding the top of the charts then, the Eagles look like they're for real if Hurts doesn't just have an implosion game. Hopefully not in the playoffs. But I got to tell you, very interesting to see if Geno Smith, if this is a Cinderella story and the clock strikes midnight, like right about, I don't know, December 25th or something, and all of a sudden he's Geno Smith again. I don't know.
He's back. Let me say this. A parting shot 2.0. Wouldn't it be wild if the 2 Alabama quarterbacks square off in the Super Bowl? Tua and Jalen Hurts.
Ooh, boy, that'd be fun. Same locker room. Mac Jones carries their water out to him at halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be great. And MTO, congrats, man. It's got to be a lot of fun for Jets fans to have a team that's actually competitive. I actually really love what they're doing. I'm watching and rooting for them. And frankly, the Detroit Lions on Sundays before my Rams start. A lot of fun to watch their teams and good stuff. So my parting shot isn't the NFL just in terms of, God, I'm going to step on my own foot here. There's a lot of things I don't like. Some of these penalties are just absurdly stupid. But you've got to love the parity. And my God, are we in good hands with young quarterbacks for the next 10 years or so? A lot of fun to watch. There's my parting shot. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Dirty Pocket live on Twitch. MTO, God, good to see you, man. You are unbelievable. The Scout, Daniel Kelly, you can find him at Sports Illustrated New York Jets Country.
Jets. Enjoy the bye week, MTO.
That's right. Go subscribe to the Scout too on firstroundmock.com and his YouTube channel. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. You can find me on Gridiron Icon with the legendary Preston Denard. We have just been having some incredible NFL legends on that podcast the next few weeks, and just some teasers upcoming. That jersey behind me, Mr. Cromwell, will be on. Maybe you've heard of Fred Biletnikoff. All going to be on Gridiron Icon. So come on, watch us, tune into the Scout. Thanks again for joining us, MTO. Great to see you. He's loving those SI articles, Scout.
Thank you.
Keep them coming.
Glad you like them.
Good to see everybody. And look, we're getting our act together and getting life out of the way. We will try to see you all next week.
Absolutely. Take care. Enjoy the football.
Have a good week.